Guys, if the Fed cuts rates, and I think they're going to cut rates, don't be fooled. Stay right here on this video because I'm going to break down the latest inflation report, what it really means, and the exact moves that you need to make before the cut, during the cut, and even after the Fed cuts rates, so you don't get left behind. Now, we got headline PCE inflation numbers, and we got core PCE inflation numbers just recently. I want to focus on the core PCE inflation because that's the main inflation numbers that the Fed looks at. And headline PCE remained basically the same as the previous month anyway. So let's focus on core PCE inflation in this video. And in the second half of the video, I want to talk about what we should be doing right now today to prepare. Now, core PCE inflation excludes food and energy. Now, the core PCE excludes that food and energy from its calculation because food and energy are very volatile. They go way up, they go way down. They fluctuate a lot. They also are tied together because it takes energy to produce food. It takes energy to make and manufacture and transport and deliver food to stores all over America. And it also takes energy to preserve food along that whole cycle. So throwing out food and energy gives us a more clearer picture of what's happening with inflation. And that's why the Fed uses core PCE inflation. Now, looking at the core PCE inflation, what did it say? The annual core PCE was at 2.9%, up year over year from June's 2.8%. And that 2.9% was the highest reading of core PCE inflation since February. So we're talking 5 months. Now, the monthly core PCE inflation increased 0.3%. That's month over month, which matched what they thought it would be. Now, why is this important? When we talk about core PCE inflation, we're talking about the Fed's scorecard, so to speak, right? For how sticky prices really are. And guess what? Core PCE inflation, it ain't coming down the way they want it to come down. They've been trying to get the core PCE inflation down to 2% for the last several years, and it hasn't happened. It's enough to tell us that prices are still creeping up faster than we want them to. Year over year, we went from 2.8% to 2.9%. That looks tiny on paper, right? But that's going in the wrong direction. What this means for me and you is simple. The cost of living is still stubbornly high, higher than we want it to be. You talk about services like insurance, healthcare, car repairs, you talk about things like rent. Those everyday things you cannot skip are keeping inflation high right now. That keeps pressure on me and you and our wallet. And it keeps pressure on the Fed to make a decision. Do they want to cut the rates in September to help the spending? And if so, will that risk make inflation even worse? That's what the Fed is wrestling with right now. Remember this, when the Fed makes money cheaper to borrow by lowering the Fed funds rate, more people go out and borrow. And when more people go out and borrow, guess what happens? The demand for stuff goes up. And when demand for stuff goes up, the prices go up faster. So lowering the Fed funds rate typically makes prices go higher faster. That's why they say, hey, lowering the Fed funds rate is really kind of an inflationary thing. So let's be clear about this also because people get this confused. I want to make sure we're clear. Prices always go up. There's no, oh, the price went way down. No, prices will continue to always go up. Inflation is just the rate or speed at which those prices are going up. Higher inflation means prices are going up and increasing more rapidly. Lower inflation means the prices are increasing still, but they're increasing slower, right? But bottom line is prices always increase. It's just, do they go up fast or do they go up slow? At the end of the day, sticky inflation like we see now means that me and you, we can't get too comfortable with this thing. All the data, all the pieces of data that are out there currently support the Fed cutting the rates. In just a few weeks, when the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee, when they meet again on September 16th and September 17th, everything is pointing to the fact that they're going to lower rates or should lower rates. Now, that's assuming, we got to make this assumption, that the labor data that we're going to get later on this week coming up, if that labor data doesn't go crazy this upcoming Friday, we shall see. But other than this labor data throwing things all out of whack, all the data is pointing to the Fed lowering the Fed funds rate. Fed officials, including one of the governors, Christopher Waller, who is a governor on the board of governors of the Federal Reserve, and he's one of the front runners to take over the chair spot from the current chair, Jerome Powell, when his time is up next year. At a recent speech that Christopher Waller gave, he highlighted the ongoing softening in consumer activity and softening of the job market as well. Softening of the job market just means that unemployment is slowly going up and ticking up, and the numbers are looking worse and worse. So all of that reinforces the case for the Fed to cut rates, despite the stubborn inflation. So remember, the Fed has to cut the rates, but at the same time, the Fed doesn't want that to increase inflation. So what should we be doing right now? That's the whole kicker. That's the key. As a consumer and as an investor, first thing is this: don't get tricked by this cheaper money that's out there. Just because interest rates go down doesn't mean it's time for you to go run out and borrow a bunch of money. A lower rate on your debt is still debt. That car loan, that credit card, that personal loan is still handcuffs your future. So don't confuse affordability because the rates are cheaper with responsibility, okay? Second thing is this: we need to lock in better rates on existing debt if we can. In other words, if you already carry debt, especially credit card debt, personal loans, or even some type of adjustable rate mortgage, a cut in the rates is a chance for you to refinance, consolidate your money at a lower cost if possible. Use the Fed's move in cutting the rates to save some money on your payments, not to add new debt. I'm not saying go out and get new debt, right? Just be clear about that. Another thing we can do is stay aggressive on paying down any high interest debt that we have. Even if rates dip down, credit card APRs are still sky high compared to the stock market or inflation, right? A 24% credit card might go to 23%. Knock it out now. So a rate cut becomes the motivation instead of being a trap. Right? It's the motivation to hurt and pay off debt instead of being trapped into more debt or new debt, right? Another thing you can do is revisit all of your savings accounts and CDs and money market accounts. Rate cuts can make some of those yields shrink. You might have your money in a high yield savings account right now, but a high yield savings account might be giving you 3%, but the Fed cuts rates, now that high yield savings account might be giving you 2%, right? If you're putting money in an emergency fund in a high yield savings, watch out for the bank to drop rates when the Fed cuts rates. This is why investing, in my opinion, investing in long-term index funds and ETFs is so critical, right? High yield savings accounts are good. They protect you. They keep your money in a safe spot and getting 2 and 3 and 4% interest, but they don't grow your wealth like an index fund or ETF. They just kind of preserve your money for emergencies, which is cool too. Another thing we can do is keep investing through all the noise, through all the issues and the things that we see on the news. The stock market usually cheers when rates get cut, right? Because cheaper money pumps up stocks, because cheaper money means businesses can go borrow money at a cheaper rate, right? But for us, let's not try to time this thing. Stick to whatever your consistent plan is, your dollar cost averaging, buying your ETFs and index funds and putting in your money into your Roth IRA and all that. Rate cuts can create short-term hype, but real wealth is built on the decades, right? Not the weeks that happen here and there. Be wary of any type of bubbles that you see coming up, asset bubbles. When money gets cheaper to borrow, people start chasing things like real estate and crypto and hot stocks, right? With borrowed money. You'd be surprised at how many people borrow money to invest in the stock market. That's when you get these bubbles that form. So keep your head on a swivel. Don't follow the herd into some debt-driven, hyped up stuff. Also, let me mention this. You need to strengthen your own personal economy. That means your own four walls at home. Basically, rate cuts are a sign that the Fed thinks the economy needs a boost. That means storms could be brewing. So double down on your personal economy at home. Build that emergency fund. Keep your expenses lean and low. Add new skills. Add side hustles. Add some extra streams of income. Here's the deal. With all this said, I don't want to go overboard. All right? A 2.9% core PCE inflation is not the end of the world. But we got to take note and be aware and understand the information that's out there and how it plays into our money. A Fed rate cut is not a green light to borrow more money. It's a yellow light to be a little cautious. Cheaper money might look good, but debt is still debt. Use this season of possible rate cuts to clean up, Not necessarily to go out and load up, right? Get lean, get strong, and stay ready with your personal finances, because the real winners, guys, are the ones who use these moves to build wealth. They don't use these moves to chase some short-term hype. You don't want to be doing that. Listen, if you got value from this quick update, this quick video, let me know in the comments below. Just say, I got value. Share this video with your people, somebody who you think needs to know it. And do me a favor, get your free copy of my ebook, The 24 Laws of Money, in the description box below. The best person who's going to take care of the old you is the young you. Take care of yourself and take care of other people. Until the next video, peace.